knew Scamacca wasn't going to feature tomorrow against Arsenal. He's been missing for the last couple of weeks. And funnily enough, a couple of weeks ago, when David Moyes was doing a press conference and he was giving the team injury news, updates ahead of the game, he said Scamacca was going to be out for a couple of weeks. So we were now at the end of that fortnight that the manager gave us for Scamacca's recovery time. So the expectation was he might be back for the Ghent game next week, but this one was going to come too soon. Well, bad news, scrap that, because yesterday in his pre-match press conference, David Moyes confirmed Scamacca is having surgery on his knee today. This is not good. Now, that's all David Moyes said. So in terms of facts from the manager, that was it. That is where it ended. He didn't give a timeline for Scamacca or anything like that. He just said that Scamacca is having surgery. The good news is, though, everyone else is available, so we've got a fully fit squad tomorrow, bar Scamacca. Now, reports elsewhere has obviously picked this up and ran with it, and they're suggesting that Scamacca is now out for the rest of the season, which feels realistic. It's difficult to not believe that, given that there's only a month left of the season. You take into consideration his recovery time, then getting up to match sharpness so that he can actually play games, so he would need a couple of weeks back in training as well. So I'm going to believe that. So has Scamacca played his last game for West Ham this season? Probably. Has Scamacca played his last game ever for West Ham? Possibly. We'll have to see what the summer holds for him, for West Ham, for the manager. You know the situation. But no matter how you look at this situation with Scamacca, this is not good. And I'm not even talking about how he's fitted into David Moyes' system or not fitted into David Moyes' system, how he's performed, has he been up to expectation. I'm not even discussing that. I'm just discussing this injury news. Now, when we go back to the start of February, Danny Ings was injured already and Scamacca was injured, and the club made a decision back then to give them both injections because they needed to be, essentially, we needed to patch them up and get them back out onto the pitch. West Ham were in a desperate situation. We still are 2 months later, but back then it was even more desperate. So it was a case of we're going to have to do all we can to get these players fit enough so that they can play, so we can use them in games, because we can't go without Ings and Scamacca. We need at least one of them available along with Michail Antonio. So the club made the decision at the very start of February to give these two players plasma injections to speed up the recovery time. Now that comes with its risks. Naturally, we all know what those risks are. The player breaking down again in future. Those injections not quite working, because that's all you're doing. You're patching them up. You're almost cheating the recovery process. You're trying to urge the body along a little bit. Now, I say it's worked with Danny Ings. He looks a bit broken, doesn't he? He's never been the most mobile striker. But now, since he's joined, really, it's difficult watching him trying to get around the pitch. A couple of times he's taken knocks as well. Against Fulham, he went down under a heavy challenge and played on for quite a considerable amount of time afterwards, and he did not look right. He looked like he was dragging his leg around the pitch at one point. He's basically Kurt Zouma up front. You're never going to have a fully fit Danny Ings. You're never going to have a fully fit Kurt Zouma. Well, we definitely don't have a fully fit Gianluca Scamacca at the minute either. But the club made the decision back then. Now, I am not going to blame just David Moyes for this, by the way. While Moyes will have had some part to play in this, of course, this is more at the medical team. I expect them to be able to overrule the manager in any situation. Of course, it's the manager's call whether he plays the player or not, but this is where I expect the injury department, especially at Premier League level, to essentially say whether that player is available or not for training and then for matchday purposes, and give the manager advice accordingly. So between them, as a group, as a club, as a football club, West Ham have got the Scamacca one wrong. Now, this was only going to be known with hindsight. This is with the benefit of hindsight. Had Scamacca been able to play in loads of games, score a few goals, you'd look back and say, well, we did the right thing. That was the right thing to do. Arguably, with Danny Ings, you could say that they've done the right thing. He's got the goal on Thursday. He got the goals against Nottingham Forest. He gets another couple before the end of the season. It was the right thing to do with Danny Ings back then. But with Scamacca, well, you have to say it's wrong. He's away for surgery today. He's out for the rest of the season. Now, while I said I wasn't going to discuss Scamacca's impact, I'm going to a little bit here. While it's not been as good as I was hoping it would be when he arrived, I was excited because I'd never seen him play before. I thought, here we go. I've seen him briefly in an Italy shirt, but I hadn't seen him play for Sassuolo. I don't watch Italian football. So I was excited to discover him. And when he first arrived, I was blown away. I thought, bloody hell, this guy's really good. And I still think he is. I still think Scamacca is our best striker at this football club. Is he the best striker for the way that we play under David Moyes? No. But is he the best striker? Yes, he is. And you won't change my mind about that. And I remember watching him, especially when we played Wolves. I thought, this guy's too good for us. The way he was just bossing the Wolves defence, the way he was linking up with Jared Bowen and got his goal. I thought, wow, this guy's unbelievable. He's been worth the 18-month wait. And since then, it's kind of gone downhill, and I look a little bit stupid for saying and thinking that. But do you know something? I kind of stand by it. I do. Just because he hasn't worked under the way that we play under David Moyes doesn't mean he's a bad striker. It just means he hasn't worked under the way that we play under David Moyes. A bad transfer is not the same as a bad player. That's what I shall always say. It looks like a bad transfer at this point, but it doesn't make him a bad player. He's still a really good player, just the wrong player to go and purchase. Anyway, my point was I'd much rather have Scamacca available between now and the end of the season than not available. So that's ruled him out. So the club have now got a decision. David Moyes has now got a decision in terms of the striker for the rest of the season. But this is where it annoys me. Like I said, at the start of February, both players, Ings and Scamacca, were injured, and they decided to juice both of them up. Not just one of them. Not just we'll give you the injections and you can recover naturally to increase the chances of you being okay. And we'll take the gamble with one player. We decided to take the gamble with both players. That is risky in itself. But I had a little look at how Scamacca has played since then, because those injections technically worked for a small period because he was available. So he had his injections at the start of February. On the 19th of February, he was an unused substitute against Tottenham. Fine, we were crap in that game. We were out the game. I get why you've got a player that's not quite 100%. Why you wouldn't risk him in that fixture. I get it. Okay, I get that one. And then against Nottingham Forest, another game where he was on the bench and didn't come on. Fine. Again, makes sense. We were cruising. We did not need to bring Scamacca on in that game. We brought on Antonio. The game was made for Antonio. Brought Antonio on. He got a goal. Perfect. It's a happy day. So we've got no complaints there. Then on the 1st of March, we played Man United. He got 4 minutes. So he came on the pitch for 4 minutes. He didn't look great in that 4 minutes, but it was 4 minutes. There's only so much you can judge him, right? 4 minutes. That's what he did. And then the Brighton game. 3 days later, another game where he was an unused substitute. I still kind of get it, because we were out that game. Would you take a risk? But this is now 3 out of 4 games. He's played 4 minutes, and 3 of them I'm sat here saying, well, the game was done. I get why we didn't take him on. I mean, one of them we were winning, so that's a bit different. But here's the next one, and this is the one that was like, it feels like the defining moment. Home to Aston Villa. And it's not the fact that he was an unused sub. It's the fact that what happened. We were 1-1. We needed to win the game, in my opinion. Some disagree. I still think we needed to win that game. I mean, since then, the way Villa are playing, it looks like a good draw. But on the day, I don't care. On the day, Villa were there for the taking. Villa were not playing well. They were missing Kamada. We could have won that game. But anyway, Scamacca was ready to come on. Scamacca was warmed up. His shirt on, his boots on, his shin pads in. He was stood on the touchline, ready to come on. And then David Moyes changed his mind and said, no, you sit back down. And he literally did sit back down on the step in the dugout. The front row of the dugout, those seats, he was sat on the step and he looked miserable. He was just sat there looking down at the ground, and he looked broken. He looked absolutely gutted. And why wouldn't he be? If he thinks he's coming on, he's thinking, here we go, kind of thing. I've taken injections a month ago, so I can play, and I've had 4 minutes since then. I'm now getting my chance. I mean, it was only going to be 10 minutes at the most he was away to get, but he did not come on. Since then, we've not seen Gianluca Scamacca in a West Ham squad, and quite frankly, I don't blame him. Now, he has played for Italy, just for context, for clarity here, for fairness. He did go away with Italy, he played a couple of minutes against England, and I think he got 20 minutes against Malta in the international break. And since then, we have not seen him. He's not been available for West Ham since the international break. And like I said, a couple of weeks ago, Moyes said he'll be out for a couple of weeks. And here we are, a couple of weeks later, and he's now away for surgery. Does he need surgery? Could he play through the pain barrier? Possibly. I don't know. We don't know. I'm not a medical expert. But this is where, because he's had very little minutes, could you blame him? Me and Gonzo had this discussion a couple of weeks ago, because Gonzo felt that maybe Scamacca could have been available if he wanted to. Maybe he could play through the pain barrier, like what Danny Ings is currently doing. But my reaction to Gonzo, and Gonzo agreed with me in the end, which was, well, why should he? He's done that. At the start of February, he took the injections. He said, don't worry about my natural recovery. I will do this, so I'm available to play. Let's get some goals. Let's get out the relegation zone. And we didn't call upon him. We used him for 4 minutes. In a month, 4 minutes is all he got. Well, he was all patched up, ready to go. We gave him 4 minutes. So Scamacca's reward for risking his health, if you like, for risking potential further damage to his knee in order to play for West Ham was 4 minutes in an FA Cup game at Old Trafford. I'm not surprised that if this guy doesn't want to be here anymore, if this guy doesn't want to play through the pain barrier, if maybe the Scamacca's decide I'm going for surgery now, I'm unavailable now, I'm going to go for surgery so that come pre-season I'm 100%, I can get straight into pre-season, then wherever I am next season or whoever I'm playing under, I'm ready to go kind of thing. Why should he jeopardise his short-term and long-term possibly future to play for West Ham when, like I said, he took a risk. He took a risk 2 months ago and his reward was 4 minutes. I guess now the question is, what do we do? How does David Moyes deal with this? Scamacca is gone. He hasn't been available for the last month, so there's no surprise there. But now I'm looking at the attacking options. We've got Michail Antonio, 3 Premier League goals this season, 1 Premier League goal in 2023. I think he's the goal before that I think was middle of October or something. There was a World Cup break, however, so that rules out 6 weeks. But 3 goals in 26 appearances in the Premier League. It's not a great return. Antonio is not a Premier League goal scorer anymore. He was, for a couple of seasons, he was a Premier League goal scorer. He's not anymore. He's possibly the best fit for the way we play under David Moyes. But we need goals. And if Bowen's chipping in with goals inside Benrahma, Paqueta, you get away with that. You can forgive Antonio for not scoring it as long as he's involved in the build-up and he's playing well. But he's not necessarily doing that, and the others aren't scoring goals. So is he the answer? I don't know. Is Danny Ings? Well, no, he's not. We've seen Danny Ings play in 3 different formations now, at least, under David Moyes. You could argue it's more than that. You could argue we played 4-2-3-1 as well as 4-3-3, right? But my point is, he's been the lone striker. Doesn't work. He scored a couple against Nottingham Forest, but if you take away his goals, his all-round play, his involvement in the play, it was minimal. He struggled to get involved. He only had a good game because he scored 2 goals, and that's what you want from your striker. But when you look at the game against Fulham in a 4-4-2, completely ineffective. His partnership with Antonio was non-existent. There was no chemistry. There was no teamwork. There was no cohesion between the two of them. They looked like strangers. And I know he's only just joined, but he's been here long enough now to have built up that relationship with Michail Antonio on the training ground, because he's not been doing it with Scamacca, is he? He's been injured. So there's no excuse for that not to have been something. So we saw him 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3, 4-4-2. None of it's worked. Against Ghent, 3-5-2 or 5-3-2, however you want to call it. Up front again in a 2 with Jared Bowen this time. It didn't work. Well, you could argue it did. Ings got a goal and Jared Bowen provided the assist. But that was it. There was nothing. There was no chemistry between those two whatsoever. The teamwork was lacking. It's only going to get tougher in the Premier League. They're only going to have a tougher ride against Arsenal than they did against Ghent, and they struggled to make an impact in that game. And this is where the transfer thing, I can't just blame David Moyes for this one. I can, and how he plays. The fact that he bought Ings and then said, "Oh, I'm working out how to," I mean, that was just. But while I forgive Scamacca and Paqueta, even Gerrard for walking up West Ham, going, "Whoa, this isn't what I thought it was." They've been catfished a little bit. Come here, we play good football, score lots of goals, European football. In they come in. It's a relegation battle. Danny Ings knew he was joining a relegation battle. Danny Ings knows what type of manager David Moyes is before he signed for West Ham. Danny Ings knew everything that he needed to know before he decided, yeah, I'll sign that contract. So if he was to start complaining about the way we play, I'd say, well, hang on a minute. You were aware of the way we play now, the way we did before you joined. My sympathy for Ings is non-existent in that regards. But anyway, in terms of solutions for West Ham, Maxwell Cornet is possibly the one. You might have put up with a lot of offsides, but he's probably the curveball. I say the curveball. I mean, there's an even greater curveball here. He's possibly the answer. He's got that agility, that athleticism that David Moyes requires from his striker. The desire to pull wide, to drop deep, to get involved in the build-up, to run a lot, to be a little bit pacey. Cornet's got all that. The one bit I'm unsure about is, does he have sort of the hold-up play that Antonio has and Arnautovic had? I'm not too sure about that. But if he's got the rest of it, I think that's possibly the one. Obviously, the bigger curveball would be throwing Mubama in there and just saying, right, let's see what you can do. Because when you watch him for the under-18s, he ticks all the boxes. He's head and shoulders above some of the players at that age level. You can see by his goals scored. Was it 26 goals he scored all season? across all levels for West Ham in all competitions. You know, you saw him in the semi-final, big occasion, semi-final FA Youth Cup, 7,000 fans there to watch them. He's obviously played in bigger crowds, Mubama has, but for a lot of them, that was the biggest crowd to date. Yet Mubama turned up and got a hat-trick. So in terms of the occasion, didn't get to him whatsoever. Scoring goals, natural goal scorers, movement's fantastic. Big physical striker as well, got a bit of pace, incredibly hard working. What Moyes looks for in a striker, Mubama's ticking all the boxes. I tell you now, Mubama ticks everything. The physique, the speed, getting back, tracking back, the work rate, the hold up, the build up, finishing. Tick, 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 tick. The only thing he doesn't have is the experience, but it's the chicken and the egg. How are you going to get experience if you can't get played because you don't have experience? There's only one way he's going to get it, and that's by playing him. But because of the situation we're in, which is a relegation battle, it's a big ask to put a kid, essentially, into the starting team. I think if he did that and we got relegated, he'd get slaughtered for it, Moyes. And I don't actually refer to West Ham fans here, by the way. I refer to the mainstream media. They would slaughter him, saying, what are you doing throwing a kid in a relegation battle? Now look what's happened. You've got Danny Ings sat on the bench. No wonder you got relegated. I think West Ham fans would understand it because we watched us play every single week for 90 minutes, every single game. The mainstream media, the pundits, they do not do that. They watch match of the day. That's it. That's what they then take their opinion from. Not all of them. There's some out there. I mean, they'll watch the game tomorrow because it's on the telly. But did they watch us against Fulham? I'd be very surprised if they did. So anyway, that's the 4 options really. Unless there's another one like Bowen, but I just don't see it. Moyes has now got to work out a solution between now and the end of the season that's going to get us goals to keep us in the Premier League and hopefully win us the Conference League. But it will not include Scamacca. Like I said, I blame the club as a whole for this one. They took a risk on Ings and Scamacca, and the Scamacca one hasn't worked at all. 2 weeks ago we got told he's out for 2 weeks, and yesterday we got told he's having surgery and we're not going to see him again for the rest of the season. When it rains, it pours. Anyway, if you've somehow enjoyed this positive video, please do drop a like on it by clicking the thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new to Hammers Chat. Myself and Gonzo. We'll catch you tomorrow.